Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Season 3 of the Rule 34 podcast. I'm your host, Jack, joined by my fellow co-hosts,
Dominic Castillo.
Charlemagne.
Alright, so we're back. We didn't record Thursday, but we're here today to record. Dom, we almost had the return of a certain nickname that would pop up a couple of times on podcast episodes. My ear had been clogged for like the past 2-3 days, but it's gotten better now, so it's not clogged anymore.
I see.
Mm-hmm. What's the nickname?
Oh, because there was like a period of time. It was almost for like a whole week, right, Dom? There was like a whole week, or it might have been multiple weeks, I don't remember, but it was like at least for a minimum. There was like a whole week where I was just introducing myself as like it was either Jack with half of his hearing or Jack with a clogged ear, because it was like I went like a week, or I think it was 2 weeks, where it's like 1 week one of my ears was clogged, and then the next week Dom was like, "Oh, is it better?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, it got better," and then the other ear started getting clogged and I could barely hear out of it. But we're good now. I can hear for the most part out of both ears, but I'm still gonna try and empty my ear out the most I can. It's always, well, it hasn't really been an issue until like, what year was it in high school? Was it junior or senior? I don't know. There was just 1 year where it's like, it got really bad that like I had to go to like the hospital for them to like clean it out. And like, I don't know why, but like ever since then, that's when it started becoming an issue where it's like, I don't know, it would just start building up a lot, and I'd have to like start like, instead of naturally the ear getting cleaned out, I had to start using like the earwax removal stuff. But like the weird part was like it wasn't how would you say, like you know, like I know both of you have said before, like you've seen those videos of like people getting their ears cleaned out. It's like it's never been like dry in a sense, you know, or it's never been like a, how would you put it, like a, I don't know, like hey, you've seen how like those people, it's never been like that. Like mine has always been kind of like my earwax has always been like soft, I guess you could say, but like because of how much builds up, it becomes a problem in a sense, because like it doesn't naturally come out, I guess you could say.
I think I told you guys about the ear problem that I had. Was it 2 years ago? Maybe less.
Might have been
I had
last
an
year.
ear infection for like 9 months. And I went to the doctor like more than 10 times. Like it was like between the combination of the doctor and like the ER, and literally nobody could figure out why it was like this bad. And yeah, that was like after like it fixed itself, I still had moments where like I couldn't like hear properly out of my ear, and I had to do the earwax thing.
I'm honestly surprised with like in a sense how bad it's gotten at times, that it never led to like, it never led to like an ear infection, especially because my brother himself is like, since he was like little, has dealt with like a ton of ear infections. Like he couldn't go to like the swimming pool without earplugs in, basically, or like he couldn't go anywhere like involving water without earplugs in, because then it was like boom, ear infection. So but like I've never gotten anything, and that's, I don't know, for you guys, has it been the same where for the most part you guys like never dealt with like, I guess you could say, major like health injuries? Because it's like I've never gotten stuff like ear infections or like other illnesses. I've never had something where it's like I've broken or fractured a bone. I'm not counting my foot because they purposely did that to fix it, but I never broke a bone on my own. I've never had to get my wisdom teeth removed. The only major like surgery, I guess you could say, I had was I got my appendix removed, but that's it. Like for the most part, I've stayed like, I guess you could say, relatively healthy. Where it's like, oh, the only things I've ever had is my appendix removed, and then you guys know the constant like times I'd have to go and fix an ingrown toenail until they finally put that gel to basically stop the nail from growing, and so now my nails are just perfectly fine now. But yeah, what's it called? What about you guys? Have you guys ever had like any major like health problems, I guess you would say, or like, you know, have you guys just basically never really had any issues?
And up until that ear, up to that ear infection, I'd never had a problem with that. And like, I've never broken anything. I've never had anything needed to be removed. But it's kind of like, if it does happen, it's like the worst possible like version of it. Because with that, like, I only had that one ear infection, and it lasted for 9 months. And well, besides that, it's pretty much all been the same.
What about you, Dom?
You know, I think for me it's kind of interesting how I've never really had a major like reason to go to the hospital. Although one time, I remember there was one point in time, I think that was last year, where I was in a hammock, right? Mm-hmm. It was like at a small party. It was a hammock, and I remember falling off. I'm not sure. I think someone pushed me on accident, or rather pushed me on purpose, just to make fun of me. And I think my neck kind of, I had my head laying backwards, so as soon as I fell off, my head kind of like hit the, impacted on the ground, causing my neck to like, sort of stretch out a bit, if that makes sense. And I think that's the first time I ever got like a concussion. So at the time I had no idea what was going on, and I think I was brought to the hospital. But as I was in the hospital, my parents thought I was like overreacting at the time, and so they just brought me back home when I could have been staying at the hospital to see if anything was wrong. But nothing at the moment seems to be wrong with me. I hope. But yeah, I'm surprised that through my childhood I've taken like a lot of tumbles, like falling off like scooters or like bikes and stuff like that. I have had my little accidents here, but I've never broken a bone. And nothing much has been going on in terms of going to the hospital as of late. Although I'm pretty sure one time, I think I might have gone to the hospital way back when. I think maybe I was like 2 or 3 years old. I think I had like smaller warts on my fingers. I remember it so vividly that I had like little warts, and it was like so painful just to like touch me, and I don't know why. And my parents were like kind of scared as to why I had like warts on my fingers at such an early age. But how would you call it? I'm pretty sure they did like a treatment to where like they like spray liquid nitrogen, and I got healed right afterwards. Pretty weird, I'm not gonna lie.
Interesting. As far as the concussion stuff goes, this man might, he might have CTE. But
Also, funny enough, that concussion was like, I think the day before we took our our AP English exam, I think, if I'm not incorrect.
Oh, I remember that.
If I remember correctly, I got that concussion before we took our exam for AP English. I'm not sure if it was language or literature. It was one of those two, but I remember.
Man, that I remember because I was just like, man, that would kind of suck if you ended up failing,
Yeah, kind of.
But Dom was good by then,
I think I passed. If I remember, I think I passed with a minimum of 3. So I think we're good on that.
I think we all passed that test.
W's all around. But another thing I guess I want to bring up is I think I brought it up already. I've been bringing this game up a lot, but that's because it's coming out recently. It's coming out actually next week. But I mentioned, all the changes that they had announced for, or not necessarily changes, but like they gave more clarification to what's going on with a lot of the Overwatch 2 stuff, but there's still stuff that has been like totally unclarified. Like PvP is free, but they've made no mention of the whole point of Overwatch 2, which is the PvE campaign section of it all, They've really made no mention of that at whether that's going to be like something you have to pay for, like full price game for. But yeah, it's kind of interesting that like I don't know, you kind of are upset that they haven't been like as crystal clear with a lot of the stuff, but at the same time you almost they've had the beta that people have played, so that's giving people a sneak peek, but like it's almost like they've provided so little that yet it somehow still generates hype, because it's like it's not like they're giving their whole game away, but they're also not giving enough for like people to really grasp onto, other than like the character reveals and stuff. But it's still interesting that like there's people still interested in it, in a sense.
Right.
Like it's an interesting marketing strategy, to like not like obviously with movies it's different because you don't want to give your whole movie away in a trailer. Like I can't remember if it was a trailer showing either of the times we all went to the theaters, but there was like a trailer of like basically like one of these guys needed money for like I guess it was like his daughter's surgery or something, and his brother was like a notorious like criminal, I guess you could say. And she was like, oh, let's rob this bank together. Trust me, it'll get you the money you need for this and even more to like stay like stable. And then like it goes wrong and you see them like having to like try and escape, But like the trailer basically showed the entire movie. Like it showed how it got to that point. It showed all the like scenes in that bank, the chase scenes and stuff, and then like it had the little cliffhanger to like not really tell you what the ending is, but like I remember everyone was talking about it because they were like that movie basically gives itself away in its own trailer. And then you have some movies where it does the same strategy like Overwatch, where the trailers are so minimalist that like you don't know what to expect. Like the Avatar 2 trailer that's been showing in theaters, it's like you don't really know anything about what's going on in the movie, but yet people are still hyped for it because obviously there was the first Avatar movie that I think it's like the highest grossing film of all time,
Oh, yeah, true.
But it's still like an interesting strategy for a video game though. Maybe it's because we've been spoiled where it's like they reveal so much in trailers in the past couple of like game releases that like we're not used to when they kind of don't tell us a lot because they want us to like have that first experience in game,
Right. I mean, yeah, I think the same can also be said for like Grand Theft Auto, because I'm pretty sure for every single Grand Theft Auto release, they never show gameplay. It's always just the cutscenes on its own. But it's always the cutscene that always brings like the people in. I'm not sure if you've already seen. I'm pretty sure, Jack, you've already seen maybe like a couple of trailers here and there. But I'm pretty sure like there is no gameplay at all. It's always just introduction of characters, always through cutscenes. And I think Rockstar has that same strategy of like not showing everything, but just what they might see. Because not always the cutscenes are not always finalized per se. But I think when it comes to trailers, sometimes it's best not to show like the actual gameplay at times because sometimes it's usually not finalized. Like for example, kind of like with the Ubisoft. I'm not sure if you guys seen, if you two have seen the Kubbi cat on YouTube, where Ubisoft releases like a gameplay trailer, but the gameplay trailer is absolutely in a different contrast as to what the final game has come out to be, as we know with the gadgets and the operators, which is absolutely different as to how they wanted like a tactical shooter, and same thing with other games. But how would you say? I understand the perspective of like having different sort of marketing strategies for video games, but it's just a really hard thing to deal with, especially when you either want to expose your gameplay early on to like give players like an experience that they might see through once they find buy the final product, or just to not give them any gameplay at all to maybe give them a surprise at the end. But then people might get angry as to not knowing like what they're going to be buying, regardless of the fact of the final product either being different at the day of launch.
It's kind of a scummy tactic because they're basically saying if you want to know, buy the game. And I feel like in some cases it's nice not to know everything. But then when it's like a AAA franchise, it's kind of like, we should be in the loop of what's going to happen with the game, or else we're just going to spend a lot of money on a game that's not going to live up to the expectations of people.
Yeah, you got a point there.
I definitely get.
I feel like that is the thing, because with the big companies, they don't like reveal their gameplay because they know the gameplay is going to put people off. Because like how different can it be? But then for like indie companies who want to show as many sides of the game as possible to bring in people, they tend to show a lot more. I guess it's a situation.
Yeah, because like I say, sometimes you don't want to basically give away the whole plot of the game, but I guess that's why, like, when it comes to, like, especially, like, solo games, they've always just showed, like, the gameplay, but not clue into the story. Like, they'll show, like, there obviously will be, like, the trailers where they give you, like, sneak peeks at, like, the campaign stuff, but, like, to ensure they don't give away the main driving focus of their game, they'll mainly show gameplay. But, yeah, for a game like Overwatch 2, I don't think in any trailers, other than, like, the announcement trailer, have they made any sort of a reference to the PvE campaign. And then, like, they've showed, like, other than through the beta, they showed very little of, like, gameplay stuff. So it's just, like, a really interesting strategy for, like, a game like this to not be showing, especially, like, in the days leading up to it. Like, I know we were proven wrong, or not proven wrong, but, like, we got more information after talking about it last time, and I'm hoping it's the same here, where it's, like, we're in the final week leading up to the game's release, and we haven't seen, like, any sort of final trailers, any sort of, Dom, we haven't seen any, like, cinematics for the characters, that to like, lead up into the game's release. Like, that's what helped hype up Overwatch 1, was that, like, they came out with these beautifully animated cinematics for different characters that got a lot of people talking, that got people to play the game, And yet, in the weeks leading up to it, we haven't seen, like, any of that, We haven't seen any more trailers, any sort of, like, dev talks, if you want to say. No cinematics. It's like, I don't know, it's a really interesting take for a game to do,
Yeah. I mean, I just hope they pull it off. That's just what I want. Because I just hope it doesn't, like, revert back, if you catch my drift. Because, like, for example, I think there's this game called The Culling, which is like a battle royale game. But, like, the original was perfect. Like day one, even with bugs and glitches, the game was perfect. However, as they started to add on more and more stuff, like, to monetize the game, it got to the point where the player base died off because they just hated the game. And so what the devs had to do for that game, they had to revert back to day one, just so people could get back to playing the game. So I wonder if Overwatch 2 I mean, I hope they don't do that. I hope they don't just continue to add stuff where they come to a point where they just go and revert this game back to, a day one state where, maybe they won't add in all the heroes or any other, like, bugs and fixes for the game. But we'll see. We'll see what time says in the situation. I just hope it succeeds. I just hope they also do maybe give in a sort of marketing strategy as to the reason why they're not explaining about PvE, and further on about just regular PvP, and we'll see what happens.
Especially because like the PvE thing kind of annoys me the most, because that's why Overwatch 1 stopped getting attention and development.
Exactly.
Like, they stopped it halfway through its lifespan because they were like, oh, we want to start developing Overwatch 2, and it's like, we've heard nothing of it. But, the final thing I'll mention is something I showed Dom, is that for the final week of Overwatch's lifespan, they went back to the OG screen that it had when the game first launched, As a little bit of a nostalgia trip for all the players who have been playing since day one, since it came out, And it was a nice little sort of I guess you would call it Easter egg, just one final essentially like goodbye before the game shuts down and Overwatch 2 takes its place. And it got me thinking about another game that is very nostalgic, especially to Dom and I. I don't know about Geo, but at the same time I know Geo's also played this game, but I don't know how long he's played it. But Minecraft is a game that I know, Dom, that you and I are very nostalgic for, because we've played it ever since, like, I want to say since we were probably like in elementary or middle school at minimum.
Yeah, probably elementary, man. It's been so long.
Yeah, let me look up, when did the game come out? Like, especially on when did it come out on PlayStation? But it came out November 18th, 2011. Wait, but that's regular Minecraft. When did Minecraft come out?
Because I remember it had the beta and as well as the mobile light version, or the beta version for mobile. Yeah. I remember playing that a bunch as a kid.
Yeah.
That's what I played too. I played the light version.
Exactly.
My parents' home.
Yeah.
And then when I got the PS4, I got it on PS4.
Yeah, so this is a game that, like, we've played for a long time in different variations, and the main sort of focus that was proposed by Dom was to sort of review the music that came with this game and overall have a discussion about gaming soundtracks as a whole, as well as, like, just how important they are to the actual game. Because, like, going into, like, looking at Minecraft, it's like, it's a game, basically an unlimited sandbox where you can explore, basically for the most part, an unlimited world with all these different resources, different biomes to explore, and all that, different achievements to get. And it's not just a quiet world where it's like all you hear is like the sound of the stuff you're doing in game. It's like it has a soundtrack to it, and it's a wildly popular soundtrack on its own, aside from the game, that has like a ton of like memorable tracks to it, as well as the CD disc in game that like people will use. But it's very popular, and for that I think it's because of just how much it how would you put it, like how well it fits the game, like a lot of those songs that were made for this game, for the game soundtrack, it's like they fit, especially the different settings of Minecraft, where it's like there are so many songs that are like peaceful but also sound different from one another, so you have a variety while you're exploring the world. But then it's like you go into the caves, it gets nighttime, you go into the nether, you go into the end, and like the music changes to fit that. And there's also like, have you ever had those moments where it's like, I think it's like at nighttime in Minecraft and you're in the mines, and it goes quiet and it just starts playing those random sounds to like sort of spook you in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's like it's soundtrack. I think so many people talk about it just because of how well it fits the game.
I think personally, when it comes to like the music soundtracks, I feel like what C418 has done in this was to like give the game a sort of like melodic tone per se. I wonder what he had in mind when making the music, because I'm pretty sure he knew like the demographics as to and the way the style of the game is played out. But how would you say it? I still don't know how he was able to like master like a calm melodic tone when you're like just exploring the world, or like building and crafting things, because because everybody can resonate with the music. Like you hear the music on like an Instagram meme, or you're just listening just a soundtrack, you automatically go back to when you first began the game, and I feel like that sort of nostalgic factor is what like hits everyone the most deeply, because it's what everyone can relate to, the good times, just playing the game with no worries in the background and such as that. But it's what C418 has done that, how would you say, it revitalized or like revolutionized per se the music, how important the music is. Maybe not everyone might listen to the music, but the music in it of itself is like super, powerful. As simple as it is, you're in the caves and you hear those, those spooky noises. It's meant to like give in a sort of immersive experience as to the current thing you're doing, right? Example with the caves thing. You're not gonna hear like melodic tunes in the caves, so that means there's danger. So watch out. Or when you're outside and it's a sunny day outside and you hear like music and such, or like let's say it's a rainy day, you just hang around inside your home waiting for the rain to clear out, as if there is like real danger outside to some people. It's nice. It's groovy at times, especially with like with the music discs, such as with Cat and such. But it's also the spookies, such as with disc number 13, which for some reason is meant to be the scary one, but I just don't know why it even exists in the first place. I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of like theories as to why its existence is even there, or why even C418 made that. But we all still recognize that it's disc 13. It's the scary one that you don't want to be playing on your own, or if you do find the disc, you're not gonna play it because it's gonna freak you out. Especially when it's like nighttime in the game.
I remember saying, do you guys remember Creepypasta when it was like at its peak?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I remember a lot of people saying that this 13 was also a Creepypasta, like it was an Easter egg in Minecraft. And at the time I believed it because I like literally believed every single thing that I read on Creepypasta or that I saw in videos. But then it was just people reaching to add more stuff to it, to the whole trend. I don't know if you guys saw that, but yeah, there was a lot of Minecraft stuff that was like included in the creepypastas.
It's honestly crazy how big creepypastas used to be and how much like we'd all believe in it, But then again, that's the same as like horror stories.
The one that really... Do you guys remember the SpongeBob, the Squidward one?
Oh, I remember that one, yeah.
Yeah, that one and... What was it, Jeff the Killer? Those two really like... No, not Jeff the Killer, the Russian sleep experiment. That one and the Squidward one really messed me up when I was little. I couldn't sleep, dude. I was hallucinating and stuff to that. That was a wild time to be alive.
What's it called? I remember Oscar sent me like a meme where it's like I think I sent it to the group chat. Remember where it's like me thinking I'll turn into a fine what was the word they use? Fine like abiding citizen in the world or something like that. And then it's like it shows like that slideshow of all those Shannon Sharp memes, and it's like me having unrestricted access to the internet as a child. Dude, oh my gosh. But what's it called? Another thing too that's also like interesting is like they still sort of I don't know if they've done it as much, because like they've just remained with like the classic tracks, but Dom, can you remember if they've added like any music? You know, because like the only one I can think of is the one that they added for like the Nether update, where it's like that dubstep sort of sounding one. You know, I forget what it's called. Is it really called Pig Step? I can't remember, but they added one for like the Nether update.
Yeah. There has been new music for the Nether update, and it's been from different composers too, not only the C418. But I think that was back in 2020. I think ever since the Nether update, I think that's the last time there's ever been new Minecraft music, if I'm not incorrect.
Yeah, I
But
always found that interesting, but then you think about it in a way, like I said, it remains in a way classic, and like it really induces that nostalgia factor onto you, because like they're not adding new music to make you sort of like pick and choose in a way. It's like
yeah,
you have the music there that's been set for years, and that's what keeps you, you know, essentially having that nostalgia for it, because you're like, man, look at all this or you hear the track and you're like, man, I remember hearing this, and like, you know, it's just one after the other, because it's like that's all you've heard from me, you know. And it's like, and obviously this happens when you've gone months, maybe even years without playing the game before you load it back up, you know.
yeah.
Yeah, that yearly 2-year obsession with Minecraft.
Yeah, you know, that obsession where like you're grinding it for 2 weeks and then you stop until like months down the line. That kind of happens with a lot of games, but it's mainly Minecraft that it seems to be the common experience, you know.
Yeah, because Minecraft is a game that you could always return to. Like, the only thing, like, the stuff that they add only makes it better. How would you say, it never goes down in value because of how great the updates are. There's just, like, more to explore. There's more mobs to encounter. There's, like, they do have, like, microtransactions, but, like, that's only, like, it's literally irrelevant to the rest of the game.
Yeah, and like, it still can obviously be improved, because like, there is something to be said about the fact that like, for the most part, other than like most people, it's like the majority of the fan base kind of comes and goes, you know, based on the updates. It's like they don't really retain them in a sense, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say like the game is bad. It's like limitless, but also it's like there are things that can make it not only better but like heavily replayable, you know. Like like when it comes to like the villager system, I think it can be improved and like it can be expanded on. Like I was telling my dad, it's crazy how potions have been in the game for a long time, and yet they've never come up with like an alchemist or like a scientist villager, you know. They've never come up with when they did this huge cave update, they didn't come out with like a miner villager, you know, or like stuff like that, or like excavators and stuff like that. Like,
It would be cool. Yeah, that would be cool if they added, like, in the mine shafts, if there were like rare, like, active ones with like miners going around collecting stuff.
Yeah,
and you could just steal all of their hard work.
Yeah, like that's always been the surprising thing, and then also kind of like not necessarily doing like a full-on campaign, but I'm surprised when it comes to like, especially the villagers, they've never implemented stuff like side quests in a sense, you know. Like villagers will give you tasks to do as a way to make it more interactive and have like goals to accomplish, you know.
Mm.
Or like customization. Like I know it's easier probably for them to for like when it comes to rendering and stuff like that, like it's easier for the villages to have like a set sort of like infrastructure that doesn't change often, you know. But like the first thing I always do if I load up a Minecraft world is like, you know, I always start rebuilding. Like if I'm by a village, I start rebuilding it and customizing like the homes based off of like the villager's profession, you know. And I've always thought like that should be something that they do. Like it makes no sense to have a farmer villager and he's living in the same house as every other villager, you know. Like he should be living in like a house with like a barn or like with a field of crops right next to it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So like there is a ton to expand upon. And as far as gaming soundtrack as a whole, Gio, I want to know, what are some of your favorites from gaming?
My absolute favorite of all time, and it's kind of like a wild statement because I've only played the game for the first time recently, is the soundtrack to Brotherhood, Assassin's Creed.
Mm.
And I don't know, just there's one track in particular that's called Ezio's Family, and that just hits different. Because like you play the game, and the thing with like older games is because they didn't really have. I wouldn't say like there was a balance to it, because there would be like some moments where like literally you're doing nothing, but the soundtrack would be blaring in your ears. But that just kind of like made it better, and the fact that that particular one just keeps playing over and over during like intense moments, it just kind of like makes everything so much better, and it just makes that track itself memorable. So whenever I hear it, I just like all of those feelings that I felt, I just like relive them again, re-experience them again, and it's really good. What about you? What's your favorite, or like some of your favorite soundtracks?
I think, okay, well, one of them is really unfair because it has multiple games in it, so I'll go probably my top one first, and that's Nier Automata soundtrack, just because of, we've been talking about this entire time, but I really love when games soundtracks like truly fit the theme of the game, truly fit the setting, and really immerse you in it. And not only was like Nier Automata's soundtrack just really good musically, but like so many times that soundtrack sort of fit in with that game setting. And like some of the best moments are like when you're standing there in that empty sea. Like the best time the soundtrack came into play was when you're standing in the empty city, but it's by the ocean, and like it's all just this empty, vast sort of setting you're staring at, and like the music comes in from like, I think it's like either the main menu or like the main song you hear in the city. And like people have made tons of videos just talking about like this was the moment when they realized that Nier Automata was like a generational sort of like game for them, and just how great it was. And like it was a similar experience for not only me but my dad, because I remember I was playing Nier Automata, and I told my dad, you should really play this, you're going to really enjoy it. And when you play it, either have the volume up or have headphones on, because the soundtrack really adds into it. And when he started playing it, he fell in love with the soundtrack as well. The game that I said is technically cheating because it has multiple installments, so it has more to it, but Pokemon has a great soundtrack to it. That is a game where the soundtrack truly was made for what's it called, made for it, like, and because it has all these different cities to it, there's so much that like that changes from when you're on one route to when you arrive in a city. Like to many people, one of like the greatest transitions is when you're driving on the bridge, or you're on your bike on the bridge in Pokemon Black and White, and like the song's all nice and calm, and then you enter Driftvale City to this like most upbeat song ever. And like, I don't know, I just always loved the Pokemon soundtrack. I'm trying to think of some other ones. I don't think BioShock had one, just because for the most part it was always a game that was quiet in a sense, because it played off the little like, I guess if you want to call it like horror aspects, where it's like you really had to pay attention to sound to know when like enemies were coming. What about you, Dom? What were some of your favorite like gaming soundtracks of all time?
I feel like the Need for Speed soundtracks are a little bit underrated. I think the only reason why is because the Need for Speed franchise, as well as like the any other racing franchise like the Forza Horizon or the Forza Motorsport series, it's only because it's never original music. It's always just licensed tracks from like rappers or like EDM artists and such as that. But I feel like they're very underrated, because the majority of like the songs that are meant to be put into tracks, say for example, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit is basically like a cops versus racers cops versus robbers type of game. However, it's the music itself. It is, it has like a bunch of rock music, indie music, alternative rock, and like at times like a little bit of like EDM here and there. But I would say that music in and of itself is what gives like the adrenaline boost you need when you're playing your racing game. What else? I think Grand Theft Auto in and of itself has like the most widest variety of like music selection. Or I think overall in just Rockstar games, because like with the Midnight Club series, I remember back in like 2006, 2007 when Midnight Club 3 came out, and I think it had around 150 tracks. I think around that time, I might be incorrect about that, but it was definitely more than 100, which was pretty crazy at the time because that's a lot of licenses to keep track of, when trying to come up with a game. But I mean, it was Rockstar at the time; they did have a budget to do so. But the music in itself was absolute classic, like rap songs, hip hop songs. It was a classic, I say. Same thing with the Grand Theft Auto series. They had they introduced for me personally, ever since back in 2013, it introduced me to a wide variety of songs I would have never thought of listening to. And Grand Theft Auto in particular, Grand Theft Auto 5 in particular, to me, has brought in like a wave of nostalgia every time I hear like what was it? Music Sounds Better With You, or what was that one other song? Lady Hear Me Tonight. And there's always like these memes of like robbing a bank with your friends, and then when you're on the highway you hear this song popping up, everyone's dancing to the tune of the music. I feel like that sort of wave of nostalgia is what like hits me the most in terms of like it's just music in general. But how would you say? I feel like music in and of itself has a different contrast as to how it's portrayed into games. Either the music is meant to be following the tone of the game, or it's completely random per se. Because like for like Grand Theft Auto 5, you could be in like an intense situation, like like driving away from police and such as that, but you could be playing, I don't know, like classical music when you would instead have to have like an upbeat or like a music just to follow like the situation. But like for other games, like for going back to Minecraft, the music usually always follows the situation as that's going on at hand. So seeing how different games contrast how they're meant to be experienced, it does kind of get me off a little bit, because the freedom as to what you want to listen to is a bit, how would you say, it puts me in a bit of a dilemma as to how should a game be portraying its music to its audience, because the music in and of itself, I'm pretty sure there's like some sort of like psychological mental thing or whatever as to how to produce nostalgia, so that the game the gamers can come back and like reminisce the old times playing such games. And also, just quick question, Jack, have you ever, going back to the Pokemon thing, have you ever experienced listening to the Lavender theme song like first time before it got everything on YouTube with the creepypastas and such as that?
Yeah, I've always listened to it. I've really enjoyed it. There's a really cool remix on YouTube. I think it's called like Clairvoyant Eulogy or something like that. It's a really nice remix of it. I never understood like the whole creepypasta behind it, but I don't mean to cut us off, but there's about 30 seconds left, so I just want to close out real quick. This usually happens a lot where we're in the middle of discussion and we run out of time, but that's what we're used to at this point. But with that being said, thank you all for joining for another episode of Season 3 of the Rule 34 podcast. I'm your host, Jack, joined by my fellow co-hosts,
Dominic Castillo.
Giovanni.
Well, thank you all for joining us for another episode, and as always, if it exists, we have an opinion on it. Thank you, and we will catch you all in the next episode.